I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite Creator. Event is coming soon. YouTube channel. Here's the latest intel.
Is Donald Trump a Freemason? Uncovering the Trump-Freemason connection. By Pao Chang. Who is the real Donald Trump? Is he a Freemason? Was his election to the White House a Freemason counter-coup? And why did Pope Francis suddenly decide to expel Freemasons from the Knights of Malta upon Trump's election? These simple questions only scratch the surface of the clandestine worldview emerging from the rumor and disinformation mills of deep state insiders. I can offer no definitive answers, only speculation and some strange evidence in a frustrating game of truth hiding within shadows. Unfortunately, there is no untainted source of information on the internet that sheds full light upon matter. We only get selected pieces of a very strange puzzle. Which fringe narrative are we to believe? Is Donald Trump really leading a second American revolution against the globalist bloodlines of the Illuminati, led by the Rothschilds and the Vatican? Or is Donald Trump simply another shadow puppet, pawn of these globalist elites, presiding over a populist bonfire of chaos from which the New World Order will ultimately emerge? Or is the more obvious answer, using the formula of Occam's razor, that among competing hypotheses, the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected? We are simply witnessing a civil war within the fractured underworld of secret societies? In this scenario, we make no assumptions of Trump's motives, we merely view the man as he has presented himself, as neither hero nor villain, just a very shrewd opportunist. An unacknowledged civil war is a secret war. These chess-like battles are not played out on the front page or the center stage of the mainstream media. We only see the externalized symptoms, brief glimpses erupting from behind the scenes. Yet no disclosure is forthcoming. These glimpses are briefly revealed in the alternative media, then largely forgotten. The WikiLeaks of John Podesta's emails and the on-again off-again FBI investigation of Hillary Clinton being one obvious example. The hacks did not come from Russia, though Putin himself may be aligned with Freemason forces. It was likely an inside leak, another glimpse into the deep state civil war taking place. Awakened individuals who continually ask the tough questions are trying to make some sense of all this. We're waiting for President Donald Trump to reveal his real agenda. I would love to be proven wrong in my exercise of caution. We certainly need more brave men and women to stand up to the powers that be, and ensure they become the powers that were. However, no good ever comes from war, even when it's fought in secret. War divides. True liberation begins within our awakened consciousness. Those who claim to liberate us today may well become our oppressors tomorrow, if we the people simply stand idly by, hoping and waiting for the world to change the way it plays the game of chess. If Trump truly wants to save America, and silence his critics, then he needs to start with disclosure, and a relatively safe roadmap begins with disclosure of 9/11 to fix our foreign policy, disclosure of the Federal Reserve to fix our economy, and disclosure of vaccines to begin to scratch the surface of the vast network of immoral activities of which most Americans are asleep. ETs and Antarctica should come later. America needs to learn to walk before it runs. The greatest good that can come from any war is exposure, disclosure and global awakening. Is Donald Trump a Freemason? This video speculates that Trump appears to be a Mason based upon the heavy use of symbolism within Trump Tower. His penthouse apartment is on the 66th floor. 66 is 33rd degree Mason times 2, there is no 66th floor in Trump Tower. He had to eliminate 9 numbered floors, plus the superstitious 13th floor, so that his penthouse occupied the 66th floor. Why would anyone do this unless they were determined to live on the 66th floor for some strange superstitious reason? Donald Trump lives in a penthouse that he says is on the 66th to 68th floors of his eponymous building. There's only one problem with that. According to New York City documents, Trump Tower has only 58 floors. Of course, What's more apparently unsettling is the gaudy opulence of the gold-plated decor in which Trump lives, what might otherwise be considered a ludicrous stereotype of ancient and medieval ruling monarchs. Yet the spiritual alchemy of gold has symbolic meaning to Freemasonry and the occult world. Was the U.S. election Freemason versus Rothschild? In a previous post, the Coding the Economist 2017 cover, I interpreted the Judgment Tarot card on the Economist cover, which features Trump as Emperor of the World, holding the ornamentation of British royalty. President Trump has recently made an ally of the new British Prime Minister Theresa May, and the pair have already been referred to as the new Reagan and Thatcher. Cold War flashback. The Economist is half-owned and operated by the Rothschilds. Hillary Clinton was exposed in leaked emails as a Rothschild servant, and she was their candidate of choice. Hillary bragged that she takes her marching orders from the Council on Foreign Relations. So by extension, the campaign between Trump and Clinton could be described as a competition between the Freemasons and the Rothschilds. This same feud may even go back to the machinations behind World War II. Adolf Hitler is suspected of being an illegitimate Rothschild heir, who was not too fond of Freemasonry in Germany. The Nazis claimed that high-degree Masons were willing members of the Jewish conspiracy and that Freemasonry was one of the causes of Germany's defeat in World War I. Speaking of bloodlines, Clinton and Trump share a common bloodline. They are both the direct descendants of 14th-century 1st Duke of Lancaster John of Gaunt and his third wife Catherine Swynford, according to the ancestry site MyHeritage.com. While they may be related blue-blood elites, while the Clintons and the Trumps were once on very friendly terms, they became fierce competitors in one of the nastiest elections in American history. So will Trump spare his distant cousin the embarrassment of a future investigation and criminal prosecution? President Trump hasn't ruled it out. We may yet see just how far a blue-blood family feud actually goes. Those who believe Clinton and Trump are having a chummy good laugh together behind the scenes at our expense fail to acknowledge how brutally dark the competition between power-hungry bloodlines actually is, whether it's orchestrated or not. Betrayal is both their first rule and their worst crime. Just ask the Kennedy clan, what's left of them anyway? This is not a nice family tree. Betrayal is the greatest good. The Illuminists teach this to their children as a very important spiritual principle. They idealize betrayal as being the true state of man. The quick-witted, the adept, learns this quickly and learns to manipulate it. Sveli. Trump exposed? On his inauguration day, Donald J. Trump was exactly 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old. Was this somehow planned? The occult elite do love the number 7. Christine Lagarde, the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, gave a highly unusual speech to the National Press Club about numerology and the number 7. In his inauguration address, Trump openly declared war on the globalists' agenda. We are assembled here today issuing a new decree to be heard in every city, in every foreign capital, and in every hall of power. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first. Every decision on trade, on taxes, on immigration, on foreign affairs will be made to benefit American workers and American families. We must protect our borders from the ravages of other countries making our products, stealing our companies, and destroying our jobs. Protection will lead to great prosperity and strength. I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down. America will start winning again, winning like never before. We will bring back our jobs. We will bring back our borders. Donald Trump. Then there is the strange case of the naked Trump statues. This news item below, from a Freemason website, points out that Trump is portrayed wearing nothing but a Freemason ring, even his genitals are missing, although presented as a joke, a viral political campaign against Trump. Someone with money funded this project with the obvious objective to ridicule Trump and expose him, literally and figuratively. Being secret, these societies sure love their overt displays of symbolism. Why a Masonic ring on the Donald Trump statue? Masonic ring, Donald Trump, statue. Masonic ring on Donald statue. By now you've heard the sensational news of 5 Donald Trump statues, the emperor has no balls, that were placed around the country. See images of the statue on Getty Images. As strange as the appearance of this statue was, even stranger was the inclusion of a Masonic ring on the nude presidential contender, rendering a strange message on an even stranger figure upon which to associate it. Alas, the Hans Christian Andersen appellation of the emperor has no clothes is perhaps one allegorical tale to be told about the presidential contender. But, an emperor without balls, wearing a Masonic ring? The only question I can imagine on the minds of most Freemasons, after the obvious statement of how ludicrous it is, why? Why a Masonic ring on a naked Donald Trump? Donald Trump is apparently a Freemason. After watching the video below, one can see that the Donald has a penchant for flashing Masonic hand gestures. Notice, especially, the handshake with Sean Hannity at the very end of this work. He has been caught doing this too many times for it to be an accident. This and other circumstantial evidence makes it clear that he is a Mason. Now that we have established that he is a Mason, we need to ask what kind is he? The craft, as it is called, can be thought of as an ascending pyramid. You have a lot of water carriers at the bottom, you have people with more authority on the higher steps, and then you have the true select at the top. I don't think Trump, given his stature as a New York billionaire, is a low-level or a mid-level Freemason. He is probably part of the elite. He is likely a high-standing member of one of Manhattan's patrician Illuminati lodges and is, probably, well acquainted with many worldly and brainy people. He is probably being coached by some of these people. Trump. For the neoconservative magazine National Review has an article entitled Donald Trump's Foreign Policy Advisors, Skeptical Reviews. This piece contained several Masonic allusions. First of all, look at the lead photo which contains Trump making an apparent Masonic hand sign. Secondly, in the article when introducing Joseph Schmitz, Trump's advisor, the writer alludes to his, Schmitz's, obsession with Baron von Steuben, a Revolutionary War hero and famous Mason, a true Masonic icon who single-handedly taught and drilled the Continental Army, forging it into a professional army. Last June I was amazed by how Trump ascended to the top of the GOP presidential pack. He was a joke to many, but he came on quickly, pushing a lot of hot-button issues and throwing out a lot of red meat, which was quickly devoured by his issue-hungry constituents. He said things that many Americans wanted to hear from a presidential candidate. He was indeed a breath of fresh air. Hand signs. Why was he so prescient in choosing his messages that resounded with America so? I got the feeling that his speeches were scripted and his meaning was intended to surprise and shock his rivals, as well as thrill his followers. His cadence was so perfect that I feel he had to have help. Where has he gotten this help? Many high-level Masons, as well as powerful Jews, are not happy with the way things are going in the world and feel threatened by some of the events that have exploded upon them this past decade or so. Trump represents a faction within Freemasonry and Jewry that has rebelled against the status quo. This faction is deplored by what it sees are the results of the failed policies of the neocons and the Sabbaton section of world Jewry. This faction has decided to lead a populist crusade against this insanity. Donald Trump being a Freemason is not necessarily a bad thing. He will not be our first Masonic president if he is elected. His populism and nationalism, to this writer at least, are real. Many patriots and many Masons are dismayed by what they see the Rothschild family doing to the world today, for instance, endless wars in the Middle East, non-white migration into Europe and North America, a stagnant and weak economy. Trump and his fellow lodge buddies represent an insurrectionist force in American politics. The lesser of two evils narrative. While the mainstream media, and some voices within the alt media, continue to prop up and parade the same false duality narrative of conservative populist versus liberal progressive to a sleeping public, some fringe writers have been revealing the secret society narrative hidden underneath, which has now evolved into Freemason versus Rothschild. Large swaths of Americans are already aware that many of the founding fathers were Masons, that Washington, D.C. is rich with Freemason architecture, history, and symbolism. Freemasonry is the proverbial elephant in American history textbooks. It wouldn't take too much propaganda to convince patriotic Americans that Freemasons are the historical good guys, when it is the Rothschilds who control the Federal Reserve and profited from World War II. In his weekly column, Benjamin Fulford often refers to them as the Gnostic Illuminati, the more benevolent branch of the Illuminati, if such a thing exists. For the Trump regime, fixing the Middle East will be the easy part. Trump has announced he also plans to take on the hard part, dealing with the Federal Reserve Board, by hanging a portrait of Rothschild, Fed, nemesis Andrew Jackson in the White House, Pentagon sources note. This is not something the U.S. military government will be able to solve merely by marching into Fed headquarters and rounding up central bankers or even by bumping off members of the Rothschild family. It will rather involve dealing with China. The strange fringe site whatdoesitmean.com is the ultimate rumor and disinformation mill for deep inside information, which may very well be a Western intelligence site pretending to be an alternative media site pretending to be an official Russian intelligence site. This site has been promoting the Trump as Freemason versus Rothschild narrative for months. Unlike in Europe, especially France, where Freemasons' forces are known and feared, in America today this nation's citizens have absolutely no idea of this historic war going on all around them. But that cannot be said of their ancestors, who in 1828 formed the anti-Masonic Party to stop them from taking power, but whom, just a year later, in 1829, were totally defeated by Freemason forces loyal to America's first Grand Master President Andrew Jackson, and whose portrait Freemason leader President Trump ordered immediately installed in the White House Oval Office upon his taking power. Therefore, in order to understand this report, all of the previous reports, listed and linked below, must be read, and links followed, to know what is now occurring, and is being deliberately hidden from you. Conclusion. Whether a civil war between Freemason versus Rothschild is true or false may ultimately depend upon which layer of the onion you peel back. From one perspective the divisions are very real, and the conflict seems to be inflicting some heavy damage, particularly to the traditional globalist agenda, to ruling political parties, and the reputation of the mainstream corporate media. The political and psychological foundation of the NWO is being stripped bare. Peel back another layer, and this conflict might appear to be a hasty, desperate, chaotic reboot of the problem-reaction-solution formula, Plan B, a new approach to salvage the NWO. Peel back yet another layer, and you might find outside forces still manipulating the duality game, feeding off of our collective fear, hatred and victim consciousness. Irrespective of which layer you peel back, humanity remains enslaved. All secret societies seem to desire the same thing, to overthrow the current order and rule over the globe by the divine illumination of their own ego-driven agenda, or they would have little need to remain secret, they would just be another religious cult. But to the victor goes the right to rewrite the narrative for the next 200+ years, with little regard to the overall welfare of humanity. Perhaps we should view human history as a very long struggle between secret societies. A very similar civil war ended abruptly in 1307 between the Roman Catholic Church and the Knights Templar. For nearly 200 years, the Templar Order was among the wealthiest and most powerful across Europe and the Middle East until King Philip IV, who was in debt to the Templars, with the support of Pope Clement V, ordered the French Templars to be simultaneously arrested and put to death. We continue to unofficially recognize this event, to this day, as Friday the 13th. It has been speculated that the origin of the Freemasons arose like a phoenix from the ashes of the Knights Templar, that they have been at war with the Church in the European bloodlines ever since. In a recent repeat of history, Pope Francis ordered that all Freemasons be expelled from the Knights of Malta, shortly after the election of our new Freemason President Donald Trump. It is human nature to look for hope within any conflict, to pick a side to root for, but the duality game is still an illusion for those who watch it, and a delusion for those who play it. One day, exhausted watchers and players will finally wake up to wisdom and surrender the game that can never be won. When duality ends, unity begins.
Please like us and share with your social media.
Please subscribe and click the bell to be notified of our new videos.
Remember to check out our playlist for important intel you may have missed.
Be sure to enter our subscriber appreciation $100 monthly giveaway. The link is in our description.
And visit our sister channel. The event is coming soon for additional intel and information.
Stay tuned.
Victory of the Light.
Event is coming soon. YouTube channel.